Hello guys, it's the Unclear 999. Today's video is about men in 20s or later. In today's hypersexualized culture, being a virgin in your 20s can feel like you walking around with a secret label on your forehead, one that reads inexperienced, unwanted, or less than. Society doesn't directly punish people for virginity, but it's the indirect Kuster jokes, the TV shows, the casual conversations, the memes, the glorification of hookup culture that's send the message that sexual experience equals maturity, desirability, and worth. So when someone in their 20s is still a virgin, it often isn't just a matter of not having had sex, it becomes a full-blown identity crisis. They wonder if something is wrong with them. They analyze every reason why they haven't crossed that line. Was it lack of confidence, a bad body, social awkwardness, being too nice, too quiet, too introverted? The mind becomes a ruthless interrogator, digging through memories, moments, and missed chances, trying to figure out why everyone else seems to have what you don't. And it hurts deeply. Not because sex in itself is some magical transformation, but because it represents being seen, being wanted, being chosen, and not having it starts to feel like not being wanted by anyone at all. The idea of dying a virgin starts as a quiet fear and then becomes a scream buried beneath smiles, jokes, and forced indifference. For many young adults, the fear of never being touched, kissed, held, or desired haunts them late at night. They wonder if this gap in their life means they're permanently broken. They don't talk about it openly because virginity isn't just a private matret. It's become something shameful in the eyes of the world, even though it absolutely shouldn't be. Instead, they laugh when friends talk about sex. They nod along when someone brags about their latest encounter. They pretend they're too busy, too focused, or just not interested because saying, "I've never done it," feels like admitting they failed at something that supposedly everyone figures out. Some feel left behind, as if they missed an important train and are stuck watching the rest of the world pass them by. The pressure only grows as time moves on. The longer they go without it, the more the internal narrative grows. If it hasn't happened by now, it probably never will. It becomes a vicious psycho-shame, breeds isolation, which breeds anxiety, which breeds missed opportunities. They may avoid dating altogether out of fear that their inexperience will be discovered and rejected. They may settle for situations that don't feel right out of desperation to not be alone. And what's worse is the fear that if someone ever does show interest, they'll be judged or laughed at for being behind. The fear of that moment, that awkward and so they stay single, trapped by a lie that says their virginity makes them unlovable. The truth is, virginity has no expiration date. It says nothing about your worth, your attractiveness, or your capacity to love and be loved. But the world doesn't teach that. The world teaches that you're a man only if you've had sex, or that your desirability as a woman is proven through attention and experience. These are lies, but they're powerful lies, and they worm their way into the heart. For those who are virgins in their 20s, the internal war can be brutal. They feel alone in a crowd. They feel like their story doesn't fit the world's expectations, and that mismatch makes them feel invisible. But the truth is, they're not alone. Millions feel this way. Many walk with the same secret pain. And it's not because they're less, it's because they're human, and the journey to intimacy is not the same for everyone. It can be delayed, disrupted, or some choose to wait. Some struggle with social anxiety. Some grew up in environments that discourage relationships, and some simply haven't met someone they connect with. None of these are flaws. But our culture is impatient. It doesn't hold space for slow blooms. It rewards speed, boldness, and showmanship. And so many who are still virgins in their 20s feel like they're living outside of the script, like they've failed some invisible test, like the world has already decided they don't measure up. This feeling, though untrue, is devastating. It builds quietly and breaks confidence. It can lead to depression, social withdrawal, or a deep sense of inadequacy. But the healing begins when you reject the false narrative, when you understand that the timing of your experiences does not define your identity, when you realize that connection, love, and intimacy, they are not reserved for a chosen few. They are not handed out based on youth, beauty, or boldness. They come in many forms, at many times, and sometimes later is even better. There is nothing wrong with you. You are not broken. You are on your own path. And that path is just as valid as anyone else's. Virginity isn't a flaw. It's just one part of your story. The fear of dying a virgin is not really about sex, it's about the fear of never being known, never being close to someone, never being enough. But you are enough, even now. Even if no one has touched you or kissed you or said they loved you, you are enough. And when the time comes, and it will, in its own way and moment, you will see that the weight didn't ruin you. It shaped you. It made you more aware, more kind, more compassionate, more real. You will bring more depth into your relationships because you've known what it feels like to wait, to wonder, to hope. And that is not weakness. That is strength. That is authenticity. And in a world full of shallow love, your story will matter. Your journey is not less because it's different. It's just yours. And it's beautiful in its own right. And yet, even with these truths present, it's hard to silence the voice that whispers. But what if it never happens? That voice doesn't care about logic or kindness. It feeds off comparison, off loneliness, off the weight of watching other people fall in love, post pictures, hold hands, kiss, live out a life that still feels just out of reach. For those in their 20s who are still virgins, it often feels like being stuck in a waiting room with no idea when your name will be called, or if it ever will. Every year that passes adds more pressure. The question is no longer if, but when, and then eventually why not yet. Some try to cope by pretending they don't care, but behind the mask, there's a deep hunger, not just for sex, but for intimacy, closeness, affirmation. Sex becomes a symbol of validation, proof that they are wanted, that they are seen, that someone chose them. And when that symbol is missing, the fear of being unwanted feels more real, more permanent. Friends may say, it's not a big deal, but it feels like a very big deal when you wake up every day wondering why no one has loved you in that way. It feels even bigger when others laugh about hookups, like they're ordering takeout, casual, easy, frequent. You begin to wonder, what am I missing that makes it so easy for everyone else? Even though logically you may know many are struggling silently too, emotionally, it feels like you're the only one. This loneliness intensifies when society shames virginity indirectly, with jokes, slurs, and assumptions that if someone hasn't had sex, it must mean they're awkward, unattractive, or immature. And over time, you may start to believe that. You may look in the mirror and not see someone worth loving. That's the most dangerous part. Not just feeling unloved, but feeling unlovable. You carry that feeling into every interaction, every attempt to flirt, every social moment where attraction might spot. The fear of rejection becomes so loud that sometimes you retreat, pull away, convince yourself it's not worth trying. Because trying and failing, especially when you already feel fragile, feels like a confirmation of your worst fears. So you build armor, humor, detachment, ambition, distraction, but the longing doesn't disappear. It hides beneath everything. And it's not just physical longing, it's emotional. You want someone to look at you and say, I see you, I choose you, I want you just as you are, not despite your inexperience, but perhaps even because of the depth it reveals, the patience, the tenderness, the care you've preserved. But society rarely celebrates that kind of love. It celebrates fast love, surface-level attraction, and aesthetic and if you don't fit that mold, if you don't have the body, the bravado, the effortless confidence, you start to wonder if you were ever meant to be loved at all. But here is the deepest truth that most don't talk about. Sex does not make you whole. Being chosen doesn't prove your worth. You were always worthy. Before the relationship, before the kiss, before the heartbreak, your value isn't determined by what you've done, but by who you are, and who you are is not broken, even if you feel that way. Being a virgin in your 20s is not a curse. It is not a sentence. It is simply your story's current chapter. And just because others reached a milestone before you doesn't mean you've failed. Everyone blooms at a different pace. Some rush into experiences they're not ready for and regret it deeply. Others wait longer and find something more meaningful. There's no single path to love, to intimacy, to connection, and there's no shame in taking yours. The lie that says you'll die a virgin is just that, a lie rooted in fear, not fact. The fear of being alone forever is real, yes, but it's a fear shaped by hopelessness, not truth. No one can predict your future. You are not cursed. You are not destined to be alone. You are in process, and the people who are truly worth your time, the ones who see past experience into your heart, they will come when they are meant to. You don't need to chase worthiness through sex. You already possess it. You don't need to rush. You need to trust, not blindly, but patiently, knowing that time does not erase your chances. It only prepares you more for when the moment comes. The person who chooses you will not see you as behind. They'll see you as rare. Someone who waited, who valued their story, who didn't give up on love even when the world tried to convince them they were unlovable. And that kind of love, the kind that sees you fully, will be worth the wait. Still, no matter how many times this truth is spoken, it can be hard to believe it deep down, especially when the silence around virginity only reinforces the shame. Few people openly admit they're virgins in their 20s, and those who do are often met with awkward reactions, teasing, or disbelief. So those who carry this reality learn to stay quiet, to mask their feelings, to live in quiet embarrassment, even when they've done nothing wrong. And worse, sometimes even their attempts to be open and vulnerable are met with judgment from peers, from potential partners, or even from family members. They hear things like, "You just need to put yourself out there more," or "Are you even trying?" As if love is something you order on demand, and sex is simply a box to check off. These comments, often meant to be helpful, only deepen the wound. They imply that the virgin is lazy, or too picky, or worse, fundamentally flawed. Over time, even when someone has strengths, creativity, kindness, loyalty, intelligence, they begin to feel like none of it matters, like it's all invisible under the weight of what they lack. But the truth is, virginity is not a character flaw, and being a virgin into your 20s or even later is far more common than society lets on. Many people are silent about it, many hide it out of fear. But beneath the surface, this is not some rare, isolated experience. It's a shared reality for millions. The difference is that some feel safe enough to talk about it, while others suffer silently. And it's the silence that creates the illusion of loneliness, when in fact, you're not alone. You are part of a quiet community that has never been given the space to exist without shame. And as that shame grows unchecked, it begins to shape yourself. You start to carry yourself differently, not out of pride but out of self-doubt. You wonder whether people can tell, whether your lack of experience makes you less attractive, less competent in relationships, less confident. You may withdraw from romantic opportunities before they even begin, assuming that any interest someone shows will disappear the moment they find out your secret. That fear becomes a wall between you and real intimacy. Because how can you be vulnerable with someone if you believe they'll reject you for something as human, as personal, and as complex as when you've had sex or haven't? The truth is, people's sexual journeys are deeply varied. Some people lose their virginity young and regret it. Some wait and are grateful they did. Others fall somewhere in the middle. But what matters is not when it happened, but why it mattered. Virginity isn't just about sex, it's about how we see ourselves, how we feel seen by others, and whether or not we believe we're worthy of love, despite what we have or haven't experienced. And for those who fear they'll die a virgin, it's rarely about the act itself, it's about the deeper fear that life will pass them by, that love will never come, that they'll never feel chosen. But love is not limited to youth. It's not something you miss like a train at a station. It's not linear. It's not guaranteed at a certain age. It comes to people in their 30s, 40s, 60s, and sometimes in the most unexpected moments. And when it does come, it doesn't care how long you waited. It cares whether you're ready, whether your heart is open, whether you can give and receive without fear. But until that moment arrives, the hardest work is not in finding someone, but in holding on to your sense of worth, while the world tells you you're behind. And that is no small task. It means unlearning years of conditioning that told you your value is based on desirability. It means rejecting the myth that sex is proof of success. It means realizing that what makes you worthy isn't your body, your performance, or your ability to seduce, but your kindness, your presence, your patience, your honesty. The irony is that so many people who rush into sex early do so not because they're ready, but because they feel pressured. And those who wait often do so with more intentionality, more reflection, more maturity. That deserves respect, not ridicule. And yet, society is quick to glorify the former and mock the latter. But slowly, change is happening. More voices are speaking up, sharing their stories, challenging the stigma. More people are realizing that virginity is a personal choice, not a public measuring stick. And more importantly, they're realizing that sex alone does not guarantee happiness, nor does its absence prevent it. If you're reading this and you've felt the ache of being untouched, the burn of embarrassment, the fear that you'll always be alone, know this: you are not broken. You are not less than. You are not late. You are not a joke. You are not invisible. You are enough. The world may try to define you by what you lack, but you have the power to define yourself by what you are. And you are patient. You are thoughtful. You are careful with your heart. That is not weakness, it's wisdom. You are choosing depth over speed, substance over approval. And someday, someone will see that not as a flaw, but as a gift. You won't have to apologize for your story. You won't have to explain it away. You'll just be who you are, and they'll love you for it. And in that moment, all the waiting, all the nights of doubt, all the fears you carried will melt away. Not because sex changes everything, but because you'll finally see reflected in someone else what you've always needed to believe for yourself: that you are lovable, that you always were.